Hello and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I'm Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and we are here in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library which may or may not have some lions couchanting on the front steps in fear of the lion tamer's whip, is all I am saying. Today we're going to be looking at Sonnets 57 and 58, and oh my, well, I am in a bit of a quandary, I must say, as to how to consider these sonnets. My first instinct, which is a surprise to absolutely no one, is to consider them as a light-hearted, playfully teasing set of sonnets, with a little bit of kink thrown in, which also will surprise no one, resulting in a mutually satisfying role-play sexy session. Of course, that's my instinct, because I like that better than the idea of considering them as a self-debasing, desperately degrading pronouncement of the horrors of being a slave to love. And as I was preparing this lesson, I thought to myself of Slave to Love, the Bryan Ferry song, and I listened to it again, which I will include below just so you can listen to it too. And while I was listening to it, I realized that that song, like these two sonnets, does bring home the torment that being in love can sometimes cause. But more than that, it summons this undefinable feeling when you're reading something or when you're listening to some music. And I mean feeling and not thought. It's a feeling that I know what that's like. And that's the miracle of all art. That moment of bang when you realize that you're not the only one. Someone else has maybe gone through this before. And it's also when it kind of speaks to you, even if you've never actually experienced that exact emotion. So thank you, Bryan Ferry, and thank you, William Shakespeare, for giving us that. But whatever interpretation you take from Sonnets 57 and 58, they are illustrations also of the many ways in which these sonnets can be interpreted, depending on what your mindset is when you go into it. And when I think about what our tools are for interpreting, we've got a 400-plus-year-old language that it's written in, our own five senses, our own lived experience, and 400 years of history and civilization that separates us, but it also informs our way of thinking. And Roz at Scaly Dandelion about the books was talking about Tom at LA Books, who is doing a series on Dante's Divine Comedy, and talking about how it was nice to have Tom because he's a native Italian speaker, even though the Italian that was written, that the Inferno and the Purgatorio and the Paradiso are written in, is a very old language similar to Shakespeare's language, perhaps even more so than Shakespeare's. I don't really know because I don't speak Italian, even modern Italian. But there is a bit of translation that goes into these, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to look at them intensely, because I want to know what's going on too, and I have difficulty as I go along. And one of my sources for looking at these sonnets is Hyder Edward Rollins, which I've talked about before. He wrote a variorum of the sonnets, but it was published in 1944, and I haven't seen any other kind of variorum that has updated what Hyder Edward Rollins has done. And even in that variorum, he collects all of the, well, I mean, I would imagine all the more pertinent commentators on Shakespeare's sonnets, and it's basically a bunch of scholars arguing with one another about aspects in these sonnets. So not even the experts can agree completely. Which is all to say, thank you for being with me here as I struggle toward some kind of understanding of these sonnets, and feel free to argue with me in the comment section. I had a little squabble with Brian at Bookish about whether Cezanne or Van Gogh was the better artist. And if we actually do get into the fisticuffs, I'm hoping we can summon pay-per-view and get a little cash from our little go-to. But I did warn him that glitter in the eye does hurt, so I'm just saying. But let's move onward to Shakespeare in all lovingness, because I do love Brian, and I would never actually get into a fisticuffs with him. So I'm going to read 57 and 58, one right after the other, not necessarily because they flow so smoothly together, but because the themes and the language in them are so close that reading them together helps to highlight their similarities. So I'm going to read them one after the other. 57, and then if you can count 14 lines, you'll know when 58, or maybe I'll give you a fingernail up when it happens. Sonnets 57 and 58. Being your slave, what should I do but tend upon the hours and times of your desire? I have no precious time at all to spend, nor services to do till you require. Nor dare I chide the world without end hour, whilst I, my sovereign, watch the clock for you. Nor think the bitterness of absence sour when you have bid your servant once adieu. Nor dare I question with my jealous thought where you may be or your affairs suppose, but like a sad slave stay and think of naught save where you are, how happy you make those. So true a fool is love, that in your will, though you do anything, he thinks no ill. That God forbid that made me first your slave, I should in thought control your times of pleasure, or at your hand the account of hours to crave, being your vassal bound to stay your leisure. Oh, let me suffer, being at your beck, the imprisoned absence of your liberty, and patience tamed to sufferance, bide each check without accusing you of injury. Be where you list. Your charter is so strong that you yourself may privilege your time to do what you will. To you it doth belong, yourself to pardon of self-doing crime. I am to wait, though waiting so be hell, not blame your pleasure, be it ill or well. How about that? So let's dive right in here. And you'll have to pick your poison right at the start. You'll have to decide whether you're going to look at this as a pathetic instance of groveling at the dirty toenails of a loved one, or a playful romp. I'm choosing the playful romp, but let's look at the first quatrain. Being your slave, what should I do but tend upon the hours and times of your desire? I have no precious time at all to spend, nor services to do till you require. Pathetically, I would translate this to shit. I'm in love and I'm trapped. And since I've opened up with the idea of a playlist with Brian Ferry, I'm going to add here a song by the Sugar Cubes, Bjork's band before she became just Bjork, with a song called Hit that has a similar theme to being in a love relationship and being struck by the glory and the horror of it all at the same time. And I'll include possibly Phoebe Bridgers' Moon Song, which may or may not fit, but even if it doesn't, I urge you to go listen to Phoebe Bridgers' Toot Sweet, and the Tooter the Sweeter. She's amazing. But back to Shakespeare. If you are thinking about this playfully, there's a sense of, don't go, but if you do, I'll wait. And whatever you do is okay with me. So, second quatrain. After he says, I have no precious time to spend at all, nor services to do till you require. Nor dare I chide the world without end hour, whilst I, my sovereign, watch the clock for you, nor think the bitterness of absence sour, when you have bid your servant once adieu. Now, again, it's the whatever you do, it's okay, I'll just sit here and wait. But I do have to stop for just a moment to contemplate that line, nor dare I chide the world without end hour. And that one phrase, world without end hour, Shakespeare opens up world without end, the idea of the huge expanse of time that encompasses all of eternity, world without end, and then encapsulates it, contracts it again into the one word hour. So world without end, expansion, contracting into the one word hour. And he does this all in one phrase, world without end hour, to circumscribe the enormity of time. And I find that that's just genius. And he's done that before in Sonnet 21, where there's the making accompaniment of proud compare with sun and moon. He's expanding, with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's firstborn flowers, and all things rare that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems. He opens it up to the huge expanse of everything, and then hems it in a little word, just in one word. It's just, it's really genius. And what I also find interesting is that the movement in these two sonnets is similar to the movement in Sonnet 21, where he's using the similar device of saying he doesn't do something, all the while doing what he says he doesn't do. Nor dare I chide the world without end, while I, my sovereign, watch the clock for you, nor think of the bitter... I don't look at the clock, but I'm just telling you, I don't resent looking at the clock, but I'm looking at that damn clock. Nor think of the bitterness. I never, that horrid bitterness, that sour feeling that I get whenever you go away, I don't even think of it. Never crossed my mind. I don't know what you're talking about. Even though maybe I'll sit down and write a sonnet about it, but no, I'm not thinking about it. Just because it's bitter. I'm not thinking about that at all. We go on to the third quatrain. Nor dare I question my jealous thought. Here's my jealous thought. I'm not going to question it. I'm not jealous. Who, me? No way. Nor dare I question my jealous thought, where you may be, or your affairs suppose, but like a sad slave, stay and think of naught, save where you are, how happy you make those. I'm fine sitting here all alone, doing nothing, waiting for you, while you're out making the people that you're with happy. But I don't care. I'm just going to sit here and think of nothing. Because big boys don't cry. 10cc, 1979. I'm not in love. Check it out. Then we get to the couplet. So true a fool is love, that in your will, though you do anything, he thinks no ill. So true a fool is love. It's love that's the fool. I'm not the fool. It's love that's the fool. So true a fool is love, that in your will, though you do anything, he thinks no ill. Now, love is such a fool that you could do anything, and I mean he, love, won't get angry. Nope, not in the least. Not get angry. I said, I'm fine. Okay? So in the 1609 quarto, that line 13, the will is capitalized. And some say that it's an allusion to Shakespeare. It's Shakespeare saying his own first name, William. That in your will, though you do anything wrong, he thinks no ill. But going through the Variorum, the volume 2 of the Variorum, which is commentary about the commentary, the first volume is the sonnets plus the direct commentary of all the past commentators. And volume 2 is Hyder Edward Rollins' history of going through the all of the various issues that have gone into the commentary. And through all that back and forth thing, no one seems to agree that maybe this is a capital W that's supposed to be there to signify William Shakespeare's first name, or not. So it's up to you to make your decision about how you'll take it. Nothing seems to be resolved in that regard. So onward to Sonnet 58. That God forbid, so that God being Cupid, or the god of love, that God forbid that made me first your slave. He's made me your slave. I am the slave to love. That God forbid that made me first your slave, I should in thought control your times of pleasure, or at your hand the account of hours to crave, being your vassal, bound to stay your leisure. I mean, you said you'd be home at 10. It's midnight, but I don't mind. I don't mind, because, you know, I'm here for you. I'll sit and wait, and I won't complain. Might write a sonnet, but I won't complain. Quatrain 2. Oh, let me suffer, being at your beck, the imprisoned absence of your liberty. Let me suffer the imprisoned absence of your liberty. Now, again, the irony. Let me suffer the imprisoned absence of your irony, because I'm at your beck and call. And patience, tame. I'll tame my own patience to sufferance, to bear every moment that you're gone, without accusing you of injury, even though I kind of just did right there. I don't know if you saw it, but if I'm saying that I'm not accusing you of injury and that I don't care about this jealous thought, maybe you should pick up on the fact that it's a jealous thought, and maybe I am accusing you of injury. And I do like the play on suffer and sufferance. So bide each check without accusing you of injury. I'm sure you're not doing anything disgusting or anything wrong that needs me to waggle my fingernail at you. I'm certain that you're not doing that. Quatrain 3. Be where you list. And list in this case is wish or want. Like the Sir Thomas Wyatt poem, Whoso List to Hunt, which I once did a lip sync to, and I'll link that also for your playlist. Be where you list. Be wherever you want to be. Your charter is so strong that you yourself may privilege your time. You can steer your own course. May privilege your own time to what you will. To you it doth belong. Your time is yours. It's okay. Yourself to pardon of self-doing crime. So if you've done anything wrong, which I just said, I'm not accusing you of any injury, but if you are, it's up to you to pardon yourself. Me, I'm okay. And then the couplet again, which is similar to 57. I am to wait, the waiting so be hell. Not blame your pleasure, be it ill or well. I'm in hell here waiting, but I don't blame you, because you're out having fun. Good for you. And the rhymes in the couplet of 57 and 58 are also very similar. Will and ill, and hell, ill, and well at the end of 58. So we've got someone wallowing in his or her misery, and it's almost as if they enjoy this kind of misery. They'd rather be in misery and in love than be alone with no one to love, because, you know, then what would they do with all that time? Except maybe write 154 sonnets that people will be reading for the next 400 plus years, or something like that. So, is there an indication of whether there is a man or a woman, a gender of any sort? No. No, there is not. Could be anybody. For dramatic possibilities of where this might fit into any of Shakespeare's plays, I would say maybe Titania and Oberon in Midsummer Night's Dream, simply because she is jealous and he's been out messing around, and maybe not, I don't know. Any kind of, you know, maybe, I hadn't thought about this, but maybe Beatrice and Benedict, where they're kind of kidding with one another and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm your slave," or maybe in The Taming of the Shrew, possibly The Taming of the Shrew, which could get ugly in a weird kind of slavey way that slavery does. But so in terms of the narrative, and here I'm going to defend my ironic take on these, I do think, I mean, there's enough irony in each line of both of these poems that, of course, that's not what's really going on. I do see it as sort of like a sort of a foreplay or a sex play that's going on in the context of these poems as part of a homecoming, lovers who are coming together after a long absence. And I could see this where one lover gets up to get a glass of water, or maybe more cheese and crackers, or goes out to the store to get another bottle of wine, leaving the other in the bed to recite this to him or herself to the walls, to the bare walls, and all is fine with the world. And there is a lot of contradiction going on in among the lines of 57 and 58, but do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. And that's not a song, that's Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, 1855 version, which I have been listening to on audio, which is why it's in my head. Possibly, yes, it could be jealousy creeping back into the relationship, because if we're to consider what happened in Sonnets 40, 41, and 42, there might be some reasons for a little bit of jealousy, is all I'm saying. Or it could be a presaging of something happening up ahead that we just don't know about. Perhaps there's another separation happening. I don't know, because I haven't read that far. I have my suspicions, but I'm going with the little playful, ironic, sexy time. That's what I'm going with. I would like to know, though, what you think. There certainly is a lot to wonder about in these poems, and I hope that you have been paying attention and you can tell me what the right way to think about these is. Until we meet again, if you find no wonder in here, just look around at the rest of the world and you'll find it there. Pay attention to it. Until we meet again, I am Tootight Lautrec.